You can use your camera, go ahead, zap that QR code, and then immediately connect with me on LinkedIn if you have the app, for example, on your phone. If not, my email address is scashin@salesacceleration.com. You can also go to my website at growthwiseconsultinginc.com, and my phone number is on the screen. I'll go ahead and show this one last time at the very end of this evening, but definitely wanted to give you guys a way of staying in touch with me if you want to continue the conversation. So just a little bit about my background. I am a fractional chief revenue officer or an outsourced vice president of sales. The company that I started about 10 years ago is a business advisory and sales consulting firm, again called Growthwise Sales Consulting. And prior to starting my consulting business, I actually had about 24 years in corporate America working for very well funded startups and Fortune 50 companies. 100% of my career has been in either sales leadership, sales management, or actually carrying a sales bag myself. And I then had a very humbling life experience that forced a lot of thought on what I wanted to do and who I wanted to co-author the rest of my career with. And I made the decision about 10 years ago that I wanted to leave corporate America and hang my own shingle and start my own business advisory firm, Growthwise Consulting. And in doing so, I realized the true importance of having a network. When I got out of corporate America, I had been on planes running sales organizations across the US and Canada for about 24 years. And so you can only imagine I really was not well networked other than other professionals in my particular industry and company. But when you think about starting your own business and you think about, where am I going to get where's my customer going to come from? And so much of the solopreneur business transactions are through referrals. Um, I'm going to speak to you tonight about something that is near and dear to my heart, but it also translates really nicely if you are a salesperson and you sell for a company and you work for a company, solopreneurs, and really just how to show up, right? On a daily basis, even in your personal life. What I do every day is design high performing sales teams. I help small to mid-sized businesses with sales and revenue problems and underperforming teams. And so I will come in on a fractional or outsourced basis and help companies through very critical times in their growth trajectory and get them back on in a growth mode. So enough about me. We're going to go ahead and get started. Um, Tonight, we're going to talk about teaching you how to cultivate strong referral, trust-based relationships and develop a lifelong referral-based network. Both referral partners, people that can refer you business or into companies, and then also how to attract the companies and your customer themselves. We're going to do a lot of grassroots. I'm going to give you some tools and things that you'll be able to work on later if you want to. So I'm going to walk you through kind of in a workshop model tonight on how to do these things. And then, of course, you can always stay in touch with me or touch base with me if you would like additional help. But what I really like about this particular topic and workshop is that it helps you to get very clear on your target customer. And it will help you to define, and you'll walk away with knowing who are your ideal referral partners. If you rely on your network at all to refer you business. And then what does that networking strategy or that outreach strategy look like? And what should the meeting cadence be? So tonight I'm really going to talk to you about how to pull that whole strategy together. The last webinar that I did in February, a couple weeks ago, I believe it's still up for maybe another 10 days. Um, on the hub. And so you can refer back to that. But that really kind of set the stage and set the table for networking on how to develop a great LinkedIn profile and then use AI tools, leveraging LinkedIn and other tools to build your lead list and to build your network. So that was kind of part one. And part two tonight is going to be really focused on the strategy and getting clear on who your target customer is. So they say, and I'm sure you've heard this, that your network is your net worth. And this is especially true as it relates to someone like myself, a solopreneur, and small business owners, and then startup people that are just starting up and trying to find their very first 10 customers as a startup business. So understanding who your target customer or your target client is really the first step in developing that networking strategy in order to build your business. What is an ICP? And this is really the basis of your networking messaging. It is your ideal customer profile. And once you start networking, if you haven't already, you'll hear people say, well, how can I help you? Who is your ICP? They're referring to either your ideal customer profile or ideal client profile. So what is an ICP? It's a detailed description of the type of clients who is the perfect fit for to purchase your product or service. And so you define your ICP in terms of the industry, the vertical or the specialty, targeted organizations, specific revenue size. Like, for example, my target or ideal customer is a small to mid-sized business between $3 million and $50 million a year in annual reoccurring revenue. It could be the number of years in business, a well-established business. It could be a startup. So the number of years in business is also very important when you're trying to crystallize who your ideal customer profile is. I can help startups, but the real problems with the types of problems that I solve start year 3 to year 5. And so where I can help a client, for example, that is a startup and needs help with that go-to-market strategy, the real magic comes alive somewhere after year 3 when what used to work is no longer working. So I'm just sharing that with you as an example of how you frame up your ideal customer profile. And then, of course, if you don't have a national footprint, you might just be targeting people in California or Florida or wherever you live or your business exists. It could be just the western half or the eastern half, right? So you want to also, it could be global. So you want to get very specific and very clear on the location where your buyers exist. And I always recommend a CRM tool because it's so much easier to track all of your leads, customer leads, as well as referral partner, as you're building out your network, referral partners. It will be very helpful. And if you don't want to spend money on a CRM, you can easily get a free version from HubSpot. They have a real nice out of the box, simple one if you don't want to spend money. I have my favorite, it's called Pipedrive. You can refer back to the last workshop, and I went through a number of different CRMs and the bells and whistles. But gone are the days really of Google Sheets and Excel. I mean, that is an option to you, but really world class is getting yourself into a CRM. Defining your ideal buyer persona. So once you've identified who your target audience is, who your target customer is, your ICP, it's also important that your referral partners know who the type of person that would hire you for your services. So people will ask me, Susie, who's your ICP? And I say, I'm industry agnostic. I help any company between average of $3 to $50 million that are having sales or revenue problems. Or better yet, they want to scale their company for growth. Really? Okay, great. So who do you talk to? Who is your target? If you're building lead lists or you're doing outreach, and I am in your referral network and I want to make introductions, who is that buyer persona? Who is it that you're talking to? And so in my case, by way of example, it could be the CEO. It could be a vice president of sales who's struggling and their team is underperforming. It could be HR. It could be a finance person, right? So those are the typical buyers for the solutions and the services that I provide. Here is, and generally this is actually a workshop where we're in a room and we're going through a lot of this and you'll workshop a lot of this. So I have here an example, and then when you receive the deck, the final deck, you'll actually have a blank version of this. But you might be able to see across the top, it says plumbers, HOAs, homeowners associations, insurance companies or insurance agents, and property managers. Those are four different buyer personas within the restoration business. So if you think about a company that sells restoration, reconstruction, mitigation, asbestos removal, those types of services, their buyer, the people that their sales reps are calling on, are plumbers. HOA, the leads or the presidents of HOAs, homeowners associations, insurance agents, right? People that sell homeowners insurance or property insurance, and then property managers. So that's an example of not only the ideal customer profile down the left side, but across the top, the different types of buyer personas or people that might be interested in restoration services. So when you receive the deck, there'll be the example slide here, and then the next slide you'll see in the deck that you get will be a blank one so that you can fill it out yourself like your own worksheet. The next step, once you have identified your ideal client profile, who your target customer is, and who that buyer is, the next step is really getting clear on the ideal referral partners that you want to network with. These are people in your network that you want to develop relationships with that will potentially provide you with introductions to your ideal client profile. So, by way of example, think of the types of people, whatever it is that you might sell. Think of the people that also sell into that particular customer. So I'm going to use myself as an example. I had shared with you that a lot of CEOs are struggling with revenue problems, or it could be a company that already has a vice president of sales or a director of sales, and they have a struggling team and they might need my services. Well, who are the other people that I can network with and build relationships with locally and then nationally by leveraging LinkedIn that might also call on the same buyer persona, the same individual? And so the types of people that I like to network with that speak with the same CEO or maybe CHRO, Chief Human Resources Officer, that might need some help, sales training, Anybody in red on this is a perfect networking partner for me. So I tend to follow the money because sales is all about revenue. So the types of people in my network that are great referral partners that can bring me into a company that is perhaps having revenue problems is their CFO or anybody that sees the finances of a company. The bankers, the commercial bankers, business brokers. Business brokers are the people that are selling companies that might be struggling, right? Or the business broker wants to help a business to get back on track on a growth trajectory. And then in the future, 1 to 3 years out, once the revenue's back on track, the business broker helps that business owner to find a new buyer. So business brokers are really great for me because a lot of the work I do is to help turn around those companies to prepare for an exit. And you think about sales, well, it's like peanut butter and jelly. What goes really well with sales? And that is marketing, right? So chief marketing officers, people like myself that work on an outsourced or a fractional basis in marketing are also really great referral sources because sales problems and marketing problems, while related, they're very different and they're completely two separate swim lanes. And then back to following the money, the accountants, the people that are actually seeing the books of the company, and wealth advisors. So that's just an example of the types of networking partners, ideal referral partners in my case. So as you're thinking about who do I want to build my network with, these are the types of people that also call on your exact same ICP, ideal client or customer profile. So, how many meetings will it really take for you to establish a relationship that I like to refer to as, we do business with the people that we know, like, and trust, right? And if I am looking to somebody to potentially provide me an introduction to a company, well, I want to make sure that our values are aligned and that, we have the same um, ethos and ethics because I want to be able to refer that individual into the companies as well, but not if our values aren't aligned. And so that doesn't happen overnight. I like to say that, you're going to do outreach and contact, leveraging LinkedIn or attending networking events and getting business cards and meeting people in person with the intent to follow up. And you want to do about two for every 200 contacts. If you think about going to a networking event, there might be 50 people there, right? So if you want to ask for the list of attendees, if there was 50 people there, it's real easy to check that box if you're looking for potentially 200 contacts, right? To secure meetings with. About 30 to 40% of those individuals, the 200 contacts, um, will accept a meeting or make the time to have a meeting or find value in reciprocity. I call it serving your network. So anytime somebody reaches out to me, wants to connect with me, and then set up a Zoom call, or if locally they want to meet for coffee, I always try and make sure that there's time baked into my calendar to provide and give back for people, to people that I want to reciprocate with. So about 30 to 40% is about 50 to 70 potential referral partners out of a list of 200. And that list does not evolve overnight. It could take 2, 3, 4 months to come up with a list of 200 people. But I provide that with you because to you because really just kind of the law of averages and the close rate, if you will, the percentages of the people of those 200 that you are going to end up connecting with is about 30%. And then from there, it's about 25 to maybe 30% of those people who you will find you share the same values, the same ICP, a similar, buyer, the same buyer, and really be strong people that potentially can refer you business or refer you into the same types of clients. And so if you look at it as a sales funnel, you start with 200, you narrow that down somewhere between 50 to 70, and then you narrow that down again to ideally your goal over the first year of starting to build your network of 15 to 20 committed individuals with whom you share the same ethos, the same values with, that have the exact same ICP, that are willing to refer you some business. And those are called ideal referral partners. So categorizing them and ranking them also is really good. So if you think about outreaching to about 200 people, and then your ultimate goal or metric is to convert about 50 to 70 of those individuals as people that you want to either meet with on a Zoom call, or if you're able to meet locally and have coffee with. And your goal is really to attribute a value to that relationship. Obviously a tier A is going to be that 15 to 20 perfect referral partners. They're the people that um, have the exact same ideal client profile. And then I provided you also with the definition of what a tier B would be, and then tier C. And those are the people that, maybe every so often they don't really have the aligned ideal client profile or target customer as you. But they're good people, and they're people that you're going to be shaking hands with for years into the future because they participate in the same networking groups or the same community or chamber of commerce, or just giving you some examples. And so that would be an example of somebody that doesn't necessarily have the same aligned ideal client profile, but somebody with whom might share your contact card, your information with somebody else that's like an A, or that will become an A or a B for you. So this just gives you some context on how to tier and really grade or rate the people that you are reaching out with as you're building your network. So how to determine key partners. Have a level of trust with your ICP contacts. So you're looking for a partner who has deep relationships and can credibly refer you in to customers, right? So people that have others that know, like, and trust them and are well respected in their area of expertise. Look for partners who have contacts who are connected to the key decision maker and those at the same level of influence within an organization. For example, a fractional CFO is a strong partner for me in as being an outsourced VP of sales or a chief revenue officer. Because I always say, follow the money. They see the bigger picture. They see all the challenges, financial challenges that a CEO might be having in their business. And have a really good volume of ICP targets. So the partner should have sufficient reach and client volume. If they're getting started in their business, it might take a while before they have any clients that they'd be able to refer you into. And I think it's also really important that as part of getting to know them is that you prepare and ask deeper questions about the client relationships to understand not only the strength that they have with their customers or their client base, but also to understand philosophically how they, what makes them tick, right? For example, if I am developing a relationship with somebody in my network and I send them a request to have coffee, and it takes them literally a week without good explanation. I was sick or I was on vacation. Generally, people have an out of office, but and they are very haphazard and not intentional. They probably are not going to end up being in that 15 to 20 ideal referral partners for me, right? If they're very lackadaisical. And so, I have this 24-hour policy. I read my email on my phone. I get back to someone. I might not have the answer, whether it's a customer or a referral partner. I say received, and I will get back to you. So just by way of example, in terms of, really vetting the people that you're going to be bringing into your inner circle. I call it my ecosystem. And here's a little worksheet that will also help you to gauge. And, I would put the specific names as you are out networking and developing your network. I would put people's names in these different boxes, right? Um, and so green, yellow, orange, red, it's pretty self-explanatory. And this will help you to crystallize who your top 20 referral partners are going to be. And the third step in developing your networking strategy is the outreach. And so, how do you start engaging with ideal referral partner prospects? So, you're looking to bring in at least or have, 200 touch bases or outreaches to people. And that can happen by way of directly on email. Say you attend an event and you got a list of all the participants and their email address. You can send them an email and say, "Hi, my name is, we were both at this event. I would love to set up some time to, have a deeper conversation." LinkedIn, you can connect with them on LinkedIn and send them an in message on LinkedIn. And in my last, in part one, I actually gave you some of the talk tracks and some of the messaging that you can use when you're doing outreach on LinkedIn. Another way is through a landing page. And a landing page is another nice way of saying a website. And so you might have a professional landing page that you draw people to. It could be on a business card. And then on that landing page, it would say, "Here's a great way to get in touch with me." And there'll be a link to your calendar, right? So that's another way that you can connect with people, is either going to their landing page or driving them to your landing page and having your calendar link on that page. So it helps people to just jump into your calendar, see when you're available, and schedule those follow-up calls. Meeting requests, again, making sure that when you are either in person or you're on LinkedIn and you're connecting with people, that you request a meeting with them and you express interest in wanting to follow up and getting to know them. And it's not about how they can help you. It's let's form a relationship of reciprocity. I want to serve my network. So I'd love to help make introductions to other referral partners in my network or potentially clients if I have a client where that could use your services, right? And then obviously setting up the meeting at the very end of this chain. Email messaging. Make sure it's really short and sweet. Do not talk about what you do. "Hi, I do this, blah, 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 blah." Save that for a conversation. Save that for a follow-up phone call, Zoom call, or a coffee. Less is more. Your goal in initial outreach is to secure a next conversation, get an appointment with them on the calendar. um, Basically share a high level vision of how you see the partnership. I want to serve my network. I think that there might be, we could be potentially great networking partners. I would love to, help you and serve you. So you want to share that instead of it being all about you and what you are hoping to get from it. And again, your goal is to get them to accept a one-on-one meeting so that you're able to advance the relationship with the intent of getting to know them better. We do business with people that we know, like, and trust. And your goal for that next call or meeting or coffee and the one following that is to dig deeper, ask great questions, show up intentionally, and develop a relationship. and see if it's somebody that you would trust referring into a client. LinkedIn messaging. So, this is the professional social media, and that's why part one of this workshop was all about setting yourself up for success and how to optimize your LinkedIn profile so that you can, put your best foot forward, right? And you can articulate clearly who you are, what you do, and the problems you solve on your LinkedIn page. Simple messaging. Here's another example. You can send this when you connect with somebody on LinkedIn. You can just say, "Hello, so and so. I work with many business owners, helping them with sales and sales leadership. I often see gaps outside of sales that are not my expertise. I need a resource like you. I need a resource that I can rely on to introduce to my clients when needed." That might be an attorney for me, you know? Um, I might need an attorney to help when I'm hiring and we have personnel issues. So, an employment law attorney might be somebody that I know nothing about their world, but it'd be great for me to align and develop a relationship with them. So, there's an example of the type of messaging. Hi, so and so. I see that we're both located in, and I noticed our backgrounds align. I would like to connect and learn more about what you do. Sweet and simple. I would carry that on and say, "Are you available for setting up whatever's most convenient, a Zoom call in the next 2 weeks, or perhaps, since we are local, getting together for a quick coffee?" And then here are just some LinkedIn tips to boost engagement. Always stay focused on your target audience and pick topics that will interest them while enhancing your credibility. So if you think about posting, reposting, commenting, thought leadership on LinkedIn to engage with people and to get people to engage with you and your thought leadership, always, stay focused and talk about things that are meaningful and comment. Analyze your audience's engagement and do more of whatever is working. So, for example, time of day. The best time of day to actually post is early morning, right? And the type of content that has the highest level of consumption, believe it or not, is videos. So if you want to make thought leadership videos, 30-second elevator pitches, little snippets. I do a lot of podcasting. And so I always ask the podcast host, can you send me a couple snippets or key sections of your overall podcast, the hour that we spent together, in 30-second sound bites so that I can repurpose that on my social media channel and on my YouTube channel. Social media being LinkedIn. Follow the 411 rule. For every four posts that you create, four of them should entertain or educate. One should be a soft sell about what you do. Hey, if you have this problem or you know someone that does, have them contact me. And then one could be an absolute hard sell. It could be, contact me if you need X, Y, and Z. And it could be a sell sheet of whatever it is that you do, the product or service that you sell. And you could just post that in your feed and say, contact me, right? Check your social selling index score on LinkedIn. And I have included here the link at the very bottom of the slide because 95% of the people on LinkedIn don't even know what a social selling index score is. But LinkedIn provides all of its users with an SSI score, social selling index. Um, it's a scoring system between 1 and 100 that measures your effectiveness on your LinkedIn-based sales efforts. So that's your professional branding, how professional, you articulate in your profile, what you do, problems that you solve, um, the number of contacts that you have and building relationships so it will track how many interactions you have with other people, the posts that you do, the reposts of other people's content, the commenting, that's all part of the building relationships on LinkedIn. Um, Engaging with insights, so sharing out insights and information relevant to your industry or a particular topic, and then how good you are at finding the right people to connect with. So I would check your SSI score on a quarterly basis. It goes up and down depending on how engaged and how active you've been. And I went ahead and pulled mine, and you can see this is what it looks like. This is literally a screenshot of my SSI. So 62, I have 62 out of 100, which actually is relative to other people in the industry that are averaging 34, almost half of what mine is. This is a pretty strong score. Could it be higher? Absolutely, right? But I'm twice as good as other people in my industry and other professionals that do what I do, other professionals in business consulting and services. So I encourage you, I purposely included the link. So I would just type that link in to the URL, and it will take, as long as you have LinkedIn and a profile, it will take you to your SSI, and it will give you an idea of how you score. And then what's really amazing is as you start becoming more and more active on LinkedIn and posting and commenting and connecting and expanding your network, the higher your social selling index will be. Landing pages. Again, this is a dedicated page. It could be your company's website. It could be a landing page on your website that tells all about who you are. So it's either in the about section of a website or people or meet our team, a landing page that speaks just to who you are. And so a lot of people leverage that have their own website. If you're a solopreneur, or own a small business and you want to drive people to your website to attract them to understand and educate on what you do, the problems that you solve, you can actually have a contact me form where they just fill it out and it automatically sends you that lead. Technically, it's called a lead, and it will send that to you both in your email, and if you have it connected with your website connected with your CRM, it will populate in your CRM as a new lead that then starts that networking, step one. I got to follow up with this individual. They reached out, they want to maybe meet for coffee or set up some time, right? Um, so my landing page, just as an example, this is a little snippet of what mine looks like. There's a video where I'm talking about the solutions that I provide, but this just gives you an idea of my landing page. So I actually have this in my signature in my email, and it takes people directly to my landing page that has my calendar link in it, and it says, schedule time here. And then it also says visit my website, which is much more robust. Meeting cadence is the fourth and final step in developing a networking strategy. So, how do you run those referral partner meetings? You will always want to state the purpose. As I had mentioned, you want to state your intent when you're reaching out to them. I would like to get to know you better. I see some alignment or commonalities, perhaps in the companies that we serve and the things that we do that we offer. The same is true when you're actually running that meeting, right? And so you state it. You say, the purpose of this meeting for me is to get obviously to know each other better, right? Understand how we serve our clients and explore ways that we can add value to each other's network. My goal is to build relationships with trusted professionals, and I can confidently introduce you to my clients. And I'd love to learn more about how you do business. So, really state the intent. You can do that on the front end when you are trying to secure that first meeting, or at that meeting, you can rephrase it and tell them, this is really my intent. Um, and it shows that you've actually really prepared and that you are a networker with intent, that you're networking with intention, right? Always have an elevator pitch. It's 30 to 60 seconds. Very clear, high level, who you are, who you serve, what you do, and how you can help and who you help. So have that memorized, have that pitch nailed down. And it should be between, 30 and maybe 60 seconds. And you share that in a consistent manner. It's duplicatable and repeatable on every single one of your networking in every meeting. So how do you shape the meeting? The first meeting should be less about what you do and more about them. So you share with them your elevator pitch, you shut up and you make it about them, right? And how you can serve them and how you can help them. Obviously, be a good listener. I always like to come with a couple of, I've taken a look at their professional LinkedIn profile, and I always have a couple of questions prepared. So it shows intent. It shows that I've done a little bit of research and that I am serious and intentional about wanting to develop this relationship. I also think it's really important that you have a couple of case studies, success stories that you can share because if you think about the emotion behind what it is that I do or the problems that I solve, a lot of times they'll say, okay, so you write compensation plans and you put people performance metrics and people and process in place for world-class sales organizations, and that's how you design them, right? Help me understand a little bit more about the type of problems or, what are the pain points that you hear from the CEOs? Why do they make that call? What's keeping them up at night, right? So I always like to say, there's a lot of emotion behind that. And here are some of the trigger points and things I hear. And by sharing that with your referral partner, they can listen to those exact same things or for those same things. They'll know who to refer you to. They'll know the types of problems and what to listen for, right? In order to identify who would be a really good introduction for you. So have those kind of case studies or success stories or the emotional side, the problems that you likely see most frequently, because emotion is so much easier to connect with than a 30-second or 60-second elevator pitch. People are going to forget what you do. They're going to remember you because of the emotion. Have a serve first strategy in mind. So you go into this with, I want to help and actually ask them, how can I help you? Who is a good referral partner for you? Who is a good client, ICP for you? What are the things I need to be listening for or asking to determine whether or not it would be a good introduction for you? So those are the types of things you can do to show up at that meeting with a serve first mentality. Staying top of mind. Here are just a couple of ideas, right? Because networking is a long, long game. You're going to meet with somebody two, three, four times. I've had maybe a handful of customers in the last 10 years come to me after meeting somebody one time. And it's pretty remarkable because you're like, okay, well, I was able to build trust in a very short amount of time. I literally had 5 minutes at a networking event with that person, but I must have landed and created, an impact. Um, I have an E business card, but I also tend to always carry traditional old school business cards because the problem with, although I love them because they go straight into my CRM, the electronic business cards, they go into someone's phone. You know, you're using your camera, you're scanning it, a QR code, it goes into your phone. Well, if you did that 20 times in an evening at an event, how are you going to remember who the most recent 20 people were that you loaded up into your phone, right? So I always like to come prepared and also have a business card. So I'll do both. I'll say if you want to take my electronic one, that's great. But here I'll stay top of mind by way of handing you my business card. Another thing is have your picture on one side of the business card. I know it sounds cheesy, but I am telling you, you create stickiness and people remember you. If they get 15 or 20 cards at an event and they meet two wealth advisors and they both happen to be males, how are they going to remember who's who, right? You're not sticky. You're going to be like, okay, I'm going to have to go and do homework and go to LinkedIn and, connect with them and see their picture on LinkedIn, hoping it's an updated one, but going to LinkedIn to remember who it is that I want to reconnect with. So by all means, if you're bold enough to put your picture on one, side of the business card, go ahead and do it. And I can't tell you how many times people have said, gosh, you make it so easy for me to remember who you are. So some of the key next steps, I would crystallize and refine your ideal client or customer profile. Get really clear on who that is. And in this deck, there is a worksheet for you to do that. And then plot who your use that chart where you kind of tier all the A, B, C, and D, um, tier one, two, three, and four, color coding the people that are good referral partners for you. And then be intentional about your networking. So get your messaging down, do some research on some ideal networking events and places that you can go and actually network. So get, and lay that out. If you think about if you were going to drive your car from one end, from the West Coast to the East Coast and back, you would take a map, you'd get a map and you would lay it out and probably look at what Google Maps was telling you to drive, and you would probably it's the exact same approach when you're networking and you're developing your networking strategy, right? You want to lay everything out and write it down and always have that serve first mentality. And the best way to stay top of mind is by giving more of yourself than you're ever asking for. So just some key takeaways, hopefully in the workshop when I actually do this in person, I always, have people raise their hands and say, what did you like? What are you going to implement immediately? What was helpful about what we talked about? And then again, there is my QR code. If you would like to continue the conversation, you have comments, questions, I would be happy to field those. Here's the best way to get in touch with me, all of my information. I will be sending a PDF copy of this deck. You'll be able to download that, I believe, tomorrow on the website, and there will also in the next couple of days be a recording so you can listen to this again. But always happy to have a conversation with anyone and everyone. So with that, I am going to go ahead and stop sharing so that I can actually see the chat. And if anybody has questions, let's see. What was the actual name of the first webinar? I believe it was called How to Build Your Network Leveraging LinkedIn and AI Tools. It was on February 17th. So if you go to the hub and you look for that date, that's the webinar. Is it still the same approach for B2C? Great question. So if you think about developing your network, this is primarily focused at a B to in a B2B setting. So you want to identify ideal referral partners that also do business with with other businesses that would buy your services. Um, Networking and developing a relationship and all the tools that I have, provided as far as optimizing your LinkedIn is going to be the same for B2C, yes. But if you're going direct to consumers, you're going to be networking in different places. You might want to go to trade shows that give access to consumers in your industry or field. Versus just the trade shows that are B2B type trade shows. So that's the best example I can, difference by way of an example that I can give you the difference of where you'd be networking for B2C versus B2B. Which CRM tool do you use? So I use Pipedrive. It is $59 a month, and it is like a Cadillac. It's not the Rolls Royce. I'm sure everybody's heard of, Salesforce.com. I am not promoting any of these, but what I am saying is that you'll be in over your skis by purchasing a price point of like a Salesforce. You don't need it if you're a solopreneur or you're a small business. You're not going to need a Salesforce. If you are a B2C business, I like HubSpot because it's a CRM, but they have this amazing marketing tool that you can kind of upgrade your CRM to, and it allows you to do a ton of B2C, and it does a lot of like, analytics on your website if you connect it with with people that you're driving to your website. It provides a ton of analytics, but I'm more B2B. All my clients that are B2B, I either do Clarity Soft, Pipedrive, Go High Level. But the one I personally use is Pipedrive. And, if you're spending more than $50, $60 a month for a CRM, you're spending too much money if you have a small business. I am just being fully transparent. Name of the first part of the workshop. Yeah, it was February 17th. It was LinkedIn and using LinkedIn and AI tools to develop a networking strategy and grow revenue in your business. On the IRP, how do you identify what goes in the first left-hand column? i.e. operations. So um, you need to narrow and get really clear on your ideal client profile. And this slide actually gives you examples. So it could be geography, it could be revenue size of the company, of the companies that you want to outreach to. It could be a particular industry. That's really important, right? So those are the types of, identifying who your target customer is or client is designated that way. And then the actual title is the buyer persona, right? The person that's going to be doing the decision making and purchasing of your product or service is the buyer persona. So you take the ICP at more a 10,000 foot level and you say, okay, I know who buys my product. Here's the industry, here's the geography I want to sell into, the size of the company, if it's B2B, etc. Then you narrow the focus and you say, okay, who's my buyer? And that's the buyer persona. Hopefully that's helpful. I know ICP, what's buyer persona, okay? Just explain that. That's the individual who has the influence to make a purchasing decision as to whether or not they will move forward with your product or service. Excellent insight, inspiring presentation. All thank you. Please do email it. Yeah. So what happened after the first one was that the recording will go out and then the slides were also attached to that. And of course, you have my contact information. You can reach out to me and I can send it to you individually. Regarding invitations to new contacts to grab coffee, do you have any opinion on the etiquette of including a link to your calendar? Absolutely. That is so professional. It shows really well. And what I do is not to like to give people a homework assignment, like, hey, use my calendar link, right? I say, please provide me with some recommended dates and time in the next 2 weeks that work for you. And I'll send you an invitation. Or if you prefer to see what aligns with your calendar, my calendar link is below. So yes, you can kind of do it both ways. It's a little softer when say, ask them what works best for them and you're offering to send them that invite. But then you can also say, hey, if it's easier, just use my calendar link below. I always, when people say, oh, yeah, I'd like to meet you, see my calendar link below, I'm like, now I got a homework assignment. They asked to meet with me. I said, yes, I will. And now they're sending me their calendar link. It's kind of frustrating. So, yeah. I think you can kind of offer it up both ways. I want to schedule a follow-up consultation. Thank you. Thank you, Howard. How would you go about strategically selecting local trade shows for networking? Yeah, so we can take that, Howard, offline as far as strategically selecting local trade shows for networking, um, and such. We can have a conversation about that. Because there's no simple answer. It depends. Thank you for clearing that up. Much appreciated. Okay, what is this? Oh, the website for SCORE in Orange County. Oh, I'm not sure what the website is for the SCORE website.
For Orange County, it is OC, Orange County Score. That's the website.
And there we have it. We are at the top of the hour. The last one I gave everybody about 10 minutes back, but always love the engagement here and the questions, the Q&A. But in the interest of time and to respect all of your hungry tummies, I'm sure, or those of you who might be on the East Coast and wanting to just call it a day and it's 9 o'clock, I am going to say thank you so much. And I look forward to staying in touch with all of you. And if you have any questions whatsoever, please reach out and I will be happy to help you in any way that I can. And with that, have a great evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Susie. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.